Hey guys! Welcome back to the channel where we uncover music's most fascinating hidden stories. Today, we're diving into what might be one of the 90s greatest what-if moments, the rumored collaboration between Des'ree and Babyface that industry insiders suggest could have completely transformed both their careers had it not mysteriously fallen apart at the last minute. According to sources close to Babyface's production team, around 1996, right after Des'ree's You Gotta Be had conquered charts worldwide and Babyface was at his peak as the architect of R&B sound, the two powerhouses allegedly began work on what was described as a career-defining album that would have blended Des'ree's uplifting lyrics and distinctive contralto with Babyface's immaculate production. Tracy Edmonds, who was married to Babyface at the time, reportedly told friends at an industry event that the initial sessions produced some of the most beautiful music she had ever heard. What makes this particularly intriguing is what Toni Braxton shared during a little-noticed radio interview in 2018, where she mentioned being in the studio next door when Des'ree and Babyface were working together and hearing something that sounded completely different from anything either of them had done before. While Braxton didn't elaborate further, her comments have fueled speculation about just how groundbreaking this collaboration might have been. The timing aligns perfectly with Des'ree's work on Supernatural and Babyface's expansion beyond his signature sound. Music journalist Nelson George, who chronicled the R&B scene of that era, once made a cryptic reference to a project between two seemingly different artists that would have changed the direction of soul music had it been completed. Many industry veterans believe he was referring to this very collaboration. While we may never know exactly what happened between these two musical forces or why the project was apparently shelved, those familiar with the situation suggest creative differences emerged not between the artists themselves, but with label executives who couldn't envision how to market something that defied easy categorization. As we explore this fascinating musical road not taken, we'll examine what little evidence exists of this collaboration and why, according to those in the know, it might have redefined both artists' legacies had it been released. The story I'm about to share reveals something deeper than just another music industry casualty. It's about an artist who chose integrity over fame, wellness over wealth, and family over fortune. In an industry that chews up and spits out talent on a daily basis, Des'ree's journey stands out as something truly different, a story of someone who walked away on her own terms, fought major legal battles with some of music's biggest names, and ultimately found a peace that most celebrities never discover. Before Des'ree became a household name, she was just Des'ree Annette Weeks, born in London to a mother from British Guiana, now Guyana, and a father from Barbados. This Caribbean heritage would later influence her musical sensibilities, blending with British soul to create her distinctive sound. Unlike many artists who chase fame from childhood, Des'ree initially pursued a more conventional path, studying humanities in college with no real intention of becoming a professional musician. What changed everything was a boyfriend who recognized her exceptional talent. In one of those pivotal moments that alter a life's trajectory, he convinced her to record a demo tape of her original songs. This wasn't just casual encouragement. He believed in her abilities so deeply that he actively pushed her to share her gift with the world. That demo eventually made its way to Sony 550 Music, where executives immediately recognized they'd discovered something special. Her signing to Sony marked the beginning of a meteoric rise. Her debut album, Mind Adventures, in 1992 established her as a promising new voice, but it was her sophomore effort, I Ain't Movin', in 1994 that truly changed everything. The lead single, You Gotta Be, became a global phenomenon, reaching the top 10 in multiple countries and becoming one of the most played songs of the decade. This wasn't just commercial success, it was cultural impact. What made Des'ree particularly unique in the 90s music landscape was her commitment to positivity and empowerment. At a time when much of popular music was trending toward edgier themes, she unapologetically created uplifting anthems with messages of self-belief and personal growth. This wasn't calculated marketing, it was an authentic expression of her own philosophy and worldview. Her distinctive voice, that rich, warm contralto, gave her music an instantly recognizable quality that set her apart from contemporaries. In an era of melismatic vocal gymnastics popularized by Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey, Des'ree's more straightforward, soulful approach felt refreshingly authentic. She didn't need to rely on vocal tricks or gimmicks. The natural quality of her instrument was compelling enough on its own. Despite her confident, empowering lyrics and commanding vocal presence, Des'ree harbored a secret that few fans realized. She struggled with debilitating stage fright throughout her career. This wasn't just pre-show jitters or normal performance anxiety. It was a profound psychological challenge that made each concert a personal battle against her own fears. What makes this aspect of her story particularly fascinating is the disconnect between her public persona and private reality. Here was an artist whose signature song literally instructed listeners to be bold, yet she was fighting an internal war with fear every time she stepped on stage. This contradiction wasn't hypocrisy, it was a testament to her courage. She wasn't writing these empowering lyrics because confidence came easily to her. She was creating the mantras she herself needed most. The physical manifestations of her anxiety were intense. Before performances, she would experience racing heartbeat, shortness of breath, and even panic attacks. These symptoms aren't unusual for people with stage fright, but their severity and persistence throughout her career, even after achieving massive success, highlight just how significant this challenge was for her. What's particularly admirable is how she developed coping mechanisms rather than allowing this fear to derail her career prematurely. She worked with breathing techniques, visualization exercises, and other strategies to manage her anxiety enough to deliver the performances her fans expected. This behind-the-scenes struggle adds another dimension to her songs about overcoming obstacles and finding inner strength. Her battle with stage fright also raises important questions about the toll of fame and public performance. The music industry often celebrates the most extroverted, naturally comfortable performers, while those with more introverted tendencies or anxiety issues face additional hurdles. Desiree's ability to build a successful career despite these challenges demonstrates her exceptional determination and commitment to her art. This aspect of her story also foreshadows her eventual retreat from the spotlight. For someone who found public performance so psychologically taxing, the relentless demands of global fame, constant touring, media appearances, and public scrutiny would inevitably create a significant strain on her well-being. Understanding her stage fright provides crucial context for the career decisions she would later make. In 1996, Desiree's career reached new heights through her collaboration with visionary director Baz Luhrmann for his groundbreaking film, Romeo and Juliet. Her song, Kissing You, became the emotional centerpiece of the movie, playing during the pivotal ballroom scene where Leonardo DiCaprio's Romeo and Claire Danes' Juliet first meet. This wasn't just a soundtrack contribution, it was an integral part of one of the decade's most iconic cinematic moments. What made this collaboration particularly significant was how perfectly Desiree's artistic sensibilities aligned with Luhrmann's vision. Her song captured the pure, overwhelming emotion of young love that defined the film's central relationship. The raw vulnerability in her vocal performance conveyed exactly what the characters were feeling, creating a musical moment that enhanced the visual storytelling in ways few soundtrack songs achieve. The film's massive global success introduced Desiree to audiences who might not have encountered her music otherwise. Romeo and Juliet became a cultural phenomenon, particularly among younger viewers, and Kissing You benefited from this association. The song took on a life beyond the film, becoming one of her signature tracks and demonstrating her versatility beyond the empowerment anthems she was best known for. This period represented the absolute peak of Desiree's commercial success and cultural relevance. She was winning prestigious awards, including the Brit Award for Best British Female Solo Artist, the UK equivalent of a Grammy, placing her alongside British music royalty. Her albums were selling millions of copies worldwide, and her songs were in heavy rotation on radio stations across multiple formats. What's particularly interesting about this chapter in her career is how it positioned her at a crossroads. With this level of success and recognition, the conventional music industry path would have been to capitalize immediately with more frequent releases, extensive touring, and maximum media exposure. The machinery of fame was fully activated and ready to propel her to even greater heights of celebrity and commercial success. Yet even at this zenith moment, there were signs that Desiree might not follow the standard industry playbook. Her thoughtful, introspective nature and her ongoing struggles with the more public aspects of fame suggested that she might make different choices than those typically expected of an artist in her position. The stage was set for both unprecedented opportunity and potential conflict with industry expectations. As Desiree's music spread globally, it inevitably caught the attention of other major artists, sometimes in ways that led to significant legal conflicts. The most notable of these battles involved Janet Jackson, who sampled Desiree's Feel So High for her 1997 hit Got Till It's Gone, without properly securing permission. This wasn't a minor oversight, it was a clear copyright infringement that required legal intervention to resolve. What makes this situation particularly interesting is the power dynamic it revealed. Janet Jackson was arguably the bigger commercial star with the backing of a major American label and the legendary Jackson family name. Des'ree, despite her success, was taking on an industry heavyweight by standing up for her intellectual property rights. This David versus Goliath scenario highlighted her determination to protect her artistic work, regardless of who might be appropriating it. The resolution of this dispute ultimately favored Des'ree, with proper credit and compensation being arranged. This victory wasn't just personally significant, it set an important precedent for other artists facing similar situations with more powerful industry figures. Her willingness to fight this battle demonstrated both business acumen and artistic integrity that many performers lack or are afraid to exercise. Years later, another high-profile legal issue emerged when Beyoncé covered Kissing You without permission, renaming it Still in Love, Kissing You, for her 2007 deluxe edition of Birthday. Once again, Des'ree found herself in the position of having to legally defend her work against one of the music industry's most powerful figures. The situation resulted in Beyoncé being forced to pull the song from subsequent releases of the album, another victory for Des'ree's rights as a creator. These legal battles reveal something important about Des'ree's character and approach to her career. Despite her gentle public persona and positive messaging, she was no pushover when it came to protecting what was rightfully hers. She understood the value of her work and was willing to stand firm against even the biggest names in the industry when they failed to show proper respect for her artistic property. This pattern of defending her work highlights a sophistication about the business side of music that many artists lack. While creative people often focus solely on the artistic aspects of their career, Des'ree demonstrated an understanding that protecting one's intellectual property is an essential part of sustaining a career and legacy in the music industry. This business intelligence makes her subsequent career decisions all the more interesting to analyze. In the early 2000s, at what should have been the continued peak of her career, Des'ree began stepping back from the spotlight. This wasn't a gradual fade. It was a deliberate choice driven by something more important than fame or fortune, her mother's declining health. When faced with the choice between continuing her career momentum and being present for her ailing mother, Des'ree chose family without hesitation. Her mother's condition required significant care and attention, and Des'ree took on the role of primary caregiver. This wasn't a responsibility she could delegate to others while maintaining her music career. It required her physical and emotional presence. The decision to prioritize this family obligation over career opportunities reflects values that run counter to the typical entertainment industry mindset, where personal sacrifices for career advancement are often expected and celebrated. What makes this chapter particularly poignant is how it connects to the themes in Des'ree's music. Songs like You Gotta Be speak directly to knowing what matters most and having the courage to live by those priorities. In choosing to be there for her mother, she was embodying the very wisdom she had shared through her lyrics. This wasn't just talking the talk, it was walking the walk in the most profound way. The music industry is notoriously unforgiving of extended absences. The conventional wisdom is that stepping away, even temporarily, creates a vacuum that newer artists quickly fill. Record labels typically pressure artists to maintain constant visibility through regular releases, tours, and media appearances. Des'ree's willingness to step back despite these industry pressures demonstrates a rare prioritization of human values over career strategy. What's particularly notable about this hiatus is that it wasn't announced with fanfare or positioned as a temporary break. There was no carefully crafted press release or promise of an imminent return. Des'ree simply stepped away, focusing on what mattered most to her in that moment, without concern for how it might affect her public image or commercial viability. This quiet exit reflected a genuine prioritization of private life over public persona. This period also coincided with significant changes in the music industry as digital downloads began disrupting traditional business models. While Des'ree was focusing on family matters, the entire landscape of music consumption and promotion was transforming. This timing meant that when she eventually considered returning to music, she would be facing an industry dramatically different from the one she had stepped away from. During her time away from the spotlight, Des'ree didn't just focus on caregiving. She embarked on a profound spiritual journey that transformed her perspective on fame, success, and purpose. This wasn't a superficial exploration of trendy spirituality, but a deep dive into practices and philosophies that offered genuine meaning and fulfillment beyond the validation of public acclaim. Meditation became a cornerstone of her daily routine, providing tools to manage the anxiety that had plagued her performing career while opening doors to deeper self-awareness. What began as a practical approach to stress management evolved into a spiritual practice that fundamentally shifted her relationship with herself and her art. Through consistent meditation, she developed a centeredness that the chaotic entertainment industry had often threatened. Her spiritual exploration extended to various wisdom traditions, with particular emphasis on Eastern philosophies that emphasize presence, non-attachment, and inner peace. These teachings offered a stark contrast to the entertainment industry's focus on external validation, constant production, and commercial metrics of success. Through these alternative perspectives, Desiree began reconsidering what a meaningful life and career might look like outside conventional definitions. This spiritual awakening naturally influenced her relationship with music. Rather than viewing her art primarily as a commercial product or vehicle for fame, she began approaching it as a form of personal expression and potential service to others. This shift didn't diminish her commitment to quality or craftsmanship, but it did free her from the pressure to create solely for market appeal or critical validation. What makes this chapter particularly significant is how it represents a reclamation of agency. The music industry typically exerts tremendous control over artists' images, outputs, and career trajectories. By stepping back and developing a spiritual foundation independent of industry validation, Desiree established an internal compass that would guide her future decisions based on personal truth rather than external expectations. This period also saw her exploring other creative outlets beyond music, including photography and ceramics. These artistic pursuits offered new avenues for expression without the commercial pressures and public scrutiny that accompanied her music career. Through these alternative creative channels, she could experience the pure joy of artistic creation without the business complications that had increasingly accompanied her musical output. Alongside her spiritual development, Desiree became increasingly focused on holistic wellness practices that transformed both her physical health and mental outlook. This wasn't just about maintaining the energy needed for performance. It represented a comprehensive approach to well-being that would ultimately inform her life choices and career decisions. Nutrition became a particular passion, with Desiree exploring plant-based eating long before it became mainstream. She approached food not just as fuel but as medicine, learning about the connections between diet and various aspects of physical and mental health. This nutritional knowledge provided practical tools for managing her own well-being while deepening her understanding of the mind-body connection. Physical practices like yoga complemented her meditation routine, creating an integrated approach to wellness that addressed both body and mind. Unlike the punishing workout regimens often adopted by performers primarily concerned with image, Desiree's physical practices focused on sustainable well-being, flexibility, and genuine health rather than aesthetic outcomes or performative fitness. This wellness journey wasn't separate from her artistic identity, but became increasingly intertwined with it. The insights she gained through these practices influenced her perspective on creativity, performance, and the purpose of her music. Rather than compartmentalizing health as something to maintain for the sake of her career, she began seeing her creative work as one aspect of a holistically healthy life. What makes this wellness focus particularly significant is how it contrasts with the self-destructive patterns common in the entertainment industry. While many artists sacrifice their health to the demands of fame, whether through exhausting tour schedules, industry social pressures, or the stress of constant public scrutiny, Desiree chose a path that prioritized genuine well-being over career advancement or industry expectations. This period also coincided with growing public awareness about mental health issues, though such discussions weren't yet mainstream. Desiree's approach to managing her anxiety and prioritizing psychological well-being was ahead of its time, anticipating the more open conversations about performer mental health that would emerge years later. Her choices reflected an intuitive understanding of sustainability that the industry itself was slow to recognize. After years away from the spotlight, Desiree surprised fans and industry observers alike with her 2019 album, A Love Story. This wasn't a splashy comeback with massive promotion or an attempt to recapture her previous commercial peak. It was a thoughtful, mature work from an artist creating on her own terms. The album reflected both her musical evolution and the personal growth she had experienced during her time away from the industry. What makes this return particularly interesting is how it defied conventional comeback strategies. Rather than attempting to recreate the sound that had made her famous in the 90s or chasing contemporary trends, Desiree delivered music that felt authentically current to her artistic vision. The production was sophisticated yet understated, allowing her distinctive voice and thoughtful lyrics to remain the focus. The themes explored on A Love Story revealed an artist with expanded perspective and deepened wisdom. While her earlier work had focused primarily on personal empowerment and emotional resilience, These new songs added layers of nuance about relationships, social consciousness, and spiritual connection. This wasn't just a return to form, it was an evolution that honored her journey while pushing her artistry forward. Perhaps most significantly, Des'ree approached this release with dramatically different expectations than those that had accompanied her 90s output. Success was no longer defined by chart positions, sales figures, or industry accolades, but by artistic integrity and meaningful connection with listeners. This shifted metric of success allowed her to create with freedom rather than commercial pressure. The reception to A Love Story demonstrated that Des'ree's absence hadn't diminished her artistic relevance. Critics praised the album's maturity and craftsmanship, while longtime fans celebrated the return of her distinctive voice. New listeners discovered her through streaming platforms, creating an intergenerational audience that spanned those who remembered her 90s hits and younger fans encountering her music for the first time. What's particularly remarkable about this musical return is how it represents a sustainable model for artistic longevity. Rather than burning out through relentless output and touring, Des'ree had created space for growth, reflection, and renewal. This approach allowed her to return to music with genuine inspiration and purpose rather than the obligation or financial necessity that drives many artist comebacks. When we examine Des'ree's complete journey, what emerges isn't just the story of a 90s hitmaker but a masterclass in artistic integrity and authentic living. Her career offers valuable insights not just for musicians, but for anyone navigating the balance between public success and personal fulfillment in our hyper-connected, validation-seeking culture. Perhaps her most significant legacy is demonstrating that commercial success and personal well-being aren't necessarily opposing forces, but can be thoughtfully balanced. In an industry that routinely sacrifices artists' mental health, relationships, and personal development on the altar of fame, Des'ree chose a different path. She showed that stepping away from the spotlight isn't always a failure or career end, but can be a strategic reset that enables sustainable creativity and genuine fulfillment. Her legal battles with industry heavyweights established important precedents for artists' rights. By standing firm against unauthorized use of her work by even the biggest names in music, she demonstrated that creators should and can protect their intellectual property. These victories weren't just personal wins, but contributions to a more equitable music business, where artists' work is properly respected and compensated regardless of power dynamics. Des'ree's musical contribution remains significant beyond her chart successes. Her emphasis on positive messaging and empowerment created a template for conscious positivity in pop music that influenced countless artists who followed. Songs like You Gotta Be transcended their era to become timeless anthems precisely because they express universal truths about human potential and resilience. What's particularly noteworthy about Des'ree's approach to fame is how she maintained ownership of her narrative. Rather than allowing the industry or media to define her worth based on commercial metrics or public visibility, she consistently made choices aligned with her personal values. This self-determination represents a form of success that transcends gold records or award shows, the success of living authentically. For today's artists navigating an even more demanding attention economy, Des'ree's journey offers a compelling alternative to the burnout-inducing hamster wheel of constant content creation and social media presence. She demonstrates that creating space for life experience, personal growth, and genuine inspiration can ultimately serve both the art and the artist better than relentless productivity. Perhaps most importantly, Des'ree's story challenges our cultural narratives about success and visibility. In a world that increasingly equates worth with public attention and validation, her willingness to step away from fame at its peak represents a radical act of self-definition. She reminds us that sometimes the most powerful choice isn't reaching for more success, but recognizing when we have enough recognition, enough achievement, enough external validation to turn our attention to the deeper questions of purpose, connection, and meaning that ultimately define a life well lived.